Hola a todos, ¿cómo están? JuanitoShet ha llegado de nuevo, and as you can see, this is a Mega Man related video, which you see right away, right there, the Mega Man logo, for the original Mega Man game that started it all on the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES. And you might find it hard to believe, but up until I decided to play this game, 2 or 3 months ago, I had never played a Mega Man game in my entire life. Because, well, I didn't really know anybody when I was a kid growing up that owned any Mega Man games in any way, shape, or form. There are plenty of Mega Man collection titles out there, like the ones for the GameCube, and I think there's one on the PlayStation 2. There might be other collections on other consoles, but I never met anybody that owned any Mega Man games, despite the fact that I've known about the existence of pretty much all the Mega Man titles in my entire life. But I never actually got around to playing any of the games up until now, and I thought, you know what, about 2 or 3 months ago, like I said, I thought, you know what, I have this laptop right here, which I'm going to take to school, and it'd be pretty cool to have something to play on this laptop during any free time that I might have, because on occasions at the college, because I am a college student, there are times in which you don't have classes and you don't see it coming. So if you don't have a book in hand, you know, that you could read, you have no way to entertain yourself, then having a portable NES with you, you know, is a great way to kill some time if you don't want to do some homework or anything else, you know, anything that might actually, you know, be helpful in life. But so on this laptop of mine that I'm taking to school, I downloaded a little emulator you might have heard of, known as Nestopia, and I downloaded a crap load of NES games onto it because I actually own an NES game, and I'll show you that NES in an upcoming video that's going to be uploaded right after this one. But yeah, I've been playing NES games on Nestopia on this computer, and I actually have a couple of PC controllers that I use to play and these NES games on my computer, because I don't like playing games that were designed for consoles with a keyboard, although it's completely possible, and it's not really all that you know, unintuitive is the word I'm looking for. I'm kind of getting stuck here, but whatever. It's not that unintuitive, because when you try to play a game, a 2D side scroller like Mega Man, you really don't need much else other than the arrow keys and maybe 2 or 3 keys to play, you know, for B, A, and start, and maybe select, depending on what game you're playing. But in the case of Mega Man, that wouldn't be much of a problem, but I prefer to play my games with a controller. Anyway, so I downloaded this emulator and all of these games, and I thought, you know what, it would be a great way to finally get into the Mega Man games, because I've known about them my entire life, and up to this point I've never played one. So I only downloaded, out of all the 6 Mega Man games that were released originally on the Nintendo Entertainment System, I only downloaded the first one, because I thought, you know what, I don't want to be tempted to jump ahead and start the second one, which is the one that has probably the most fame. It's the one that I've seen over the years that people revere the most as being possibly the greatest Mega Man game that's ever been created when it comes to the 2D side-scrolling action Mega Man games, at least. And that one seems to have the most fame, but I said, no, you know what? I always hear, throughout all these years, I've heard that Mega Man 2 is the game that defines Mega Man as a series, especially the older titles, and that's the one that you should really love the most, because it's the one that's mostly revered, like I said. But I thought, you know what? No, I've never heard anything about the original Mega Man game, so I thought, I'm gonna start with the first, because I can basically consider myself a new fan, despite the fact that I've never played these games before. I'm just starting out. It's 2015, 2 or 3 months ago, and I thought this is the way that I want to get into the Mega Man series, despite the fact that the Mega Man game is not considered to be one of the better Mega Man games in the series from what I've seen. So I started playing the game, and I can tell you that probably like most people when they were kids, and if they got to play this game, you know, back in its original heydays in '87, which is when this game was released, these people probably had a similar experience to what I did except for the fact that, of course, I'm not playing an original copy of this because I don't own one. But this game immediately was tough for me because I didn't know the levels. But I got the feel of the game really quickly. I noticed how, for example, like right here, as you can see, I'm in the Bomb Man stage. How when you jump, you don't fall very fast. But if you're on any sort of platform that can drop you, like these green ones right here that you can see on screen right now, if they drop you, you fall at like 100 miles per hour. Like gravity is somehow stronger when a platform drops you, but when you jump, as you can see right now, it's not a problem. So that's something that I had to get used to. Getting the feel of Mega Man, controlling him in general. The controls are pretty tight, pretty slick, so you don't have trouble with that. But getting to know the enemies and all the different stages, and there actually aren't that many. But the game, I discovered, is actually pretty long, but it's a very fun game, so that's not a bad thing. It takes you. It took me about 2 weeks to really see the entire game. And after plenty of game overs, because during the initial period after I started playing it, during those first two or 3 weeks, I got to know the game, and I got to the end, and I faced Dr. Wily, and I actually beat Dr. Wily on my first try, which I mentioned in a video that's going to be uploaded after this one. And he wasn't all that hard. There were enemies that were definitely much harder than Dr. Wily, like the Yellow Devil, which has that fame of being possibly one of the toughest games out of all the entire Mega Man franchise. And I love the battle with him, and of course, like pretty much everyone, it was tough as balls to beat him until I noticed a little detail in which he shoots 2 of his body parts, and you can jump those at the same time with just 1 jump. And that really is all it took for me to really start noticing the pattern and knowing how to avoid all of the Yellow Devil's attacks. And the fights against the consecutive robot masters, there's 6 of them if I remember correctly. When you fight the last 4 in a row, who are they? Bomb Man, Guts Man, Ice Man, and Fire Man, I believe. Yeah, because you fight Cut Man and Alec Man after you beat the Yellow Devil. So yeah, it's Bomb Man, Guts Man, and Fire Man and Ice Man. And those are might be the toughest fights, or it could be the fight against the clone of Mega Man himself. But it's a tie between either the fight against your clone or the consecutive fights against the Robot Masters. Because if you're not careful from the very beginning when you're facing Bomb Man, then you end up being screwed in the fight against the other 3 Robot Masters. But anyway, I'm rambling on and on here, and I hope I'm not boring you. But this video this gameplay footage was recorded with the intention of creating a game review, so how about I get into a bit of that. As tough as the game was initially, it's not that tough. I don't consider it that tough anymore. I love the game. I'm sure I'm going to love all the other Mega Mans too, for all the other Mega Man titles, I should say. I'm sure I'm going to love Mega Man 2. There's a reason it's as well known and as famous as it is. But I'm not a very picky person when it comes to games. It's either I like them, I hate them, or they're okay, and I don't mind going back and playing this, once in a while. And when it comes to the Mega Man games, I'm sure that I'm going to spend plenty of time with them all. But since I haven't played any of the other ones, I played maybe 5 minutes of Mega Man 2, and I don't remember which stage it was anymore. But that was a couple of weeks ago, so I've just barely touched the surface of that game, the very tip of the iceberg, I should say. And I'm sure I'm going to love them all. But I can only analyze this first Mega Man game, and I can tell you, I love the music, I love the gameplay, I love the character art, I love the way Mega Man looks. Hell, I love the way Mega Man looks across all the games he's ever been in, from the newer ones to these classic ones. I love the design of the stages. I love the fact that, despite the fact that it's sometimes quite irritating and it makes you rage a bit, the fact that the enemies respawn if you move if you walk back a little bit to the left on the screen, and then you walk back right, the enemies respawn. It's kind of annoying if you're not a very patient person, but I consider myself a very patient person when it comes to video games, and I even like that. I love all the battles against the Robot Masters, but the ones that I probably love, the one that I probably dislike the most, or like the least I should say, because I just said I love them all, are the ones against Iceman and Fireman, because they're very easy to beat, and there is so much strategy to them. But yeah, like I said, I love the gameplay, I love the music, and I just love everything about the games. I love the ending to it. I love the fight against the Yellow Devil, against the Robot Masters, like I said already. I'm just repeating myself. But really, my overall experience with this game has been one in which most people had back in the NES days, in which you find out that you start playing the game and you find out that the game is extremely tough at first. You start discovering how everything works, of course, like you would with any video game that's ever been created, good or bad. And this game has just been such a joy to play. I'm glad that I started out with this one and that I didn't buy into the hype and the glory that Mega Man 2 is coded into. I'm usually like this when it comes to video game series. I like to start from the beginning, even if I know that the first game in a series has the fame of not being the best, because that's how video game series should be, right? You start out okay or not so good, and you get better with each and every title that comes after that, and that's the way it should be. But I've immensely enjoyed this game. I love it. I'm probably gonna keep on playing it on and off again throughout the rest of my life, as long as I live, because this game is just that enjoyable. And well, if you've never played a Mega Man game and you're a new fan like I am, I definitely recommend that you do. But that's about it for this video. I've kept it here long enough. There are 2 Mega Man videos coming up after this one, so stay tuned. Thank you for listening. I hope it didn't bore you. I am JuanitoShet, and I'll catch you in the next one.